When the Galactic Republic became the Empire, many things changed overnight, one of which was the policy towards slavery in the galaxy. But how could such a despicable act be rationalised by a government that had outlawed it centuries ago? Although many of the core worlds still had relatively strict rules concerning slavery, Sidious knew that in order for the Empire to succeed, he needed manpower. The Empire's an autocracy, relying heavily on its powerful and oversaturated military to keep its people in line. And although the Imperials inherited a considerable fleet and army from the Republic, it was nowhere near large enough to maintain Imperial control across the entire galaxy. They needed a huge amount of cheap labour, not only to rebuild much of what had been destroyed in the war, but to mine resources, grow crops, and build their ships and weapons, etc. So slavery to Sidious was the natural option. By empowering the slave organisations that already existed in the Outer Rim, it allowed many of the Imperial companies such as the Mining Guild to increase their production at a relatively low cost. A low cost that would essentially be transferred to the Empire. The Imperial economy boomed as they could produce much of what they needed at a fraction of the price. However, countless innocents would suffer for this. Now, the largest issue Sidious faced was how he was going to sell this to the rest of the galaxy. It seemed that overnight, a diabolical practice would now be made acceptable. Now, initially, Sidious used the Clone Wars as an excuse. An example of this is on the world of New Plimpto, where the Nosaurians had been rounded up by the Imperial forces and sold into slavery. When Darth Vader, who had once suffered as a slave himself, questioned his master, Sidious had this to say: "The trading of individual lives and freedom for personal gain must end, and it will in time. But what the Empire is doing on New Plimpto and elsewhere is different. Unrepentant separatists such as the Nosaurians must be dealt with. Put to work, they can make a positive contribution to the Empire, and their lives will be spared. It's a merciful alternative to what otherwise would be necessary." Now, Sidious's cold-hearted view on the matter is pretty evident, because most of the people being rounded up were innocent women and children, because all of the soldiers and separatists had already been killed. He attempts to use the crimes of a few separatists which he'd created to condone an entire world's people into slavery. And unfortunately, it was something that many of the people of the galaxy managed to live with. It's also important to remember that there was a strong anti-alien agenda in the galaxy, and it was something that the Empire often used. They pushed the idea of human superiority, and Sidious used it particularly when trying to condone his use of slaves. Essentially, it was very easy to target an alien species, calling them CIS sympathizers or even worse. Sidious even took away some species' very right as a people. In the case of the powerful Wookiees of Kashyyyk or the reptilian Bodachi, Sidious argued that these species weren't civilized. They were little more than intelligent beasts, and therefore didn't classify as sentients, and therefore the rights and laws about slavery didn't apply to them. For this reason, many of these species were seen as little more than beasts of burden, to be used by the Empire and to be disposed of. It was a view that would mean that a Bantha and a Wookiee would essentially be the same thing, an animal. Now, over time, slavery became more and more commonplace in the galaxy, and those who would have once stood against it became complacent, as the Empire grew more in power. Ultimately, it would play the galaxy's citizens all to support the Empire's huge military and a cruel regime. Now, I do hope that you enjoyed. If so, please remember to like, sub and share, as it really helps the channel grow and is always appreciated. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter @TheLoreGuy for regular updates. Thanks for watching, I do hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.